How did one of history's most influential cities rise, and how did it collapse? What stories lie behind the Tower of Babylon? And where does the Babylon mentioned in the Bible fit into this story? Let us examine it in depth. Babylon emerged relatively late in the historical development of this region, appearing around the middle of the 3rd and 2nd millennia BC. Before Babylon, small settlements had existed in this area since the end of the 4th millennium BC. However, for a very long time it was not regarded as an important center. The name Babylon means Gate of God in Akkadian and is the Greek form of the word Babili. This Akkadian term itself derives from the ancient Sumerian expression Katangira, which also means Gate of God. The first reference to Babylon in historical records appears during the reign of Sharkali-Shari, the last king of the Akkadian Empire during its collapse. At that time, Babylon was still described as a small town with no political significance within Mesopotamia. After the collapse of the Akkadian Empire, the city came under the control of the 3rd dynasty of Ur and became a provincial administrative center governed by officials sent by the state. Babylon occupied an exceptionally advantageous location. It stood between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers at the intersection of trade routes and irrigation canals. It was also located near the boundary of two cultural and political worlds, the Sumerians to the south and the Akkadians to the north. This situation provided ideal conditions for Babylon's future growth. Nevertheless, Babylon remained behind the older and more powerful city-states of Mesopotamia for a long period. Toward the end of the 21st century BC, the 3rd dynasty of Ur began to collapse following attacks by Amorite tribes migrating from the north and Elamites advancing from the south. Around 2000 BC, after the Elamite king Kindatu attacked and plundered the city of Ur, Mesopotamia entered a period of fragmentation. After the city-states regained their independence, they competed with one another for control of lands, irrigation canals, and especially trade routes. Isin, Larsa, Eshnunna, Nippur, and other cities struggled for supremacy. This struggle for dominance allowed Babylon to emerge from obscurity. In 1894 BC, the Amorite leader Sumu-Abum seized power in the city, making Babylon politically independent. However, it was not yet strong enough to challenge powerful regional city-states such as Larsa or Isin. It nevertheless maintained its independence and gradually strengthened. Its rise was aided by the effective administrative system inherited from the Ur period and by its strategic location. In 1792 BC, Hammurabi, the 6th king of the first Babylonian dynasty, ascended the throne. Historically, Babylon was only one of many similar Amorite city-states in southern Mesopotamia. Its position was stable, but it remained a secondary power. Regional supremacy belonged to Larsa. Isin had largely lost its former influence. Eshnunna and Mari were influential in the northeast, while Assyria was only beginning to rise further north. Hammurabi began his conquests within this political environment. He inherited an effective bureaucracy and a strong economy from his predecessors, enabling him to focus first on strengthening the internal administration of the kingdom. He repaired irrigation systems, established order in the provinces, and revised the tax system. These efforts strengthened royal authority and created the economic foundation for future expansion. The true transformation of the Babylonian kingdom began in the middle of Hammurabi's reign. In 1763 BC, he defeated Larsa, conquered important southern cities such as Uruk, and made Babylon the unrivaled power of the region. He then turned his attention northward and eastward. Eshnunna, which had maintained power for a long time and enjoyed close relations with Elam, was conquered in 1761 BC. War then broke out with the Kingdom of Mari in the Middle Euphrates region. Hammurabi's army captured Mari, plundered the city, and annexed its territory. Following these victories, Babylon gained control over most of southern Mesopotamia and large parts of the north. Hammurabi's dominion extended from the Persian Gulf to the Middle Euphrates. The region's most important agricultural lands and trade centers were under his control. He governed these territories through appointed governors, supervised irrigation canals, trade routes, and markets, and ensured stability while directing wealth toward the capital. During Hammurabi's reign, Babylon became a major political and religious center. Marduk was the city's patron deity and was elevated to the highest rank in the Sumerian-Akkadian pantheon. The Babylonian king was regarded as the executor of Marduk's will and his divine representative on earth. Babylonian society was divided into three main classes. The first group was the Awilim. These were free landowners who could defend their rights in court and participate in political and public life. Nobles, wealthy landowners, merchants, and military elites generally belonged to this class. The second group was the Mushkinim. The term means those who bow or the submissive. This class consisted of landless individuals who possessed limited citizenship rights. They farmed the land and often rented fields from the palace or temples in exchange for a share of their harvest. Despite this, they could own personal property and had limited access to the courts. However, the testimony of an Awilim was considered more valuable than that of a Mushkinum, and punishments for the same crime could be harsher for Mushkinim. Initially composed mostly of farmers, this class later expanded to include officials, craftsmen, merchants, and soldiers. At the bottom of society were slaves. Slaves had virtually no rights. People could become slaves through warfare, unpaid debts, or criminal punishment. Slaves could belong to the king, temples, or private individuals. They could not own property and were treated as goods that could be sold, rented, or used as collateral. Harm done to a slave was generally regarded only as damage to another person's property. Babylonian society was also shaped by family ties and economic roles. The family structure was patriarchal, with the male head of the household exercising extensive authority. Women, especially those from higher social classes, possessed limited property rights and could own land, serve as priestesses, and engage in trade. Nevertheless, they remained officially under male authority. Priests and priestesses devoted to Marduk and other gods enjoyed a special status and were often exempt from taxes and public service obligations.